So biopolitics entails the governance of populations as biological entities with an emphasis on optimizing their health, productivity, and reproductive capacities in manners conducive to broader political and economic objectives. It refers to a wide range of actions, regulations, and technology used to wield influence over living beings. These are all just fancy ways of explaining kingship. Kingship seems to be an inherent quality of what it means to be humans living with other humans in certain structures, such as a civilization, in culture, or in tribal communities. Kingship links the health, the wealth, the prosperity, and the direction of a culture or people to a single individual, the king. Now, this doesn't mean we're living in monarchies, but the idea of kingship persists because there is a quality of human life, and really any biological life, that is left to external factors. And those external factors have to be understood, controlled, or influenced, or manipulated, or invoked in order to have positive objectives fulfilled, which could be the growth and prosperity of a people. Now, the biopolitic of kingship can be divided into three general categories. These could be further divided, but we're going to stick to the three main broad categories. The first is the rulership of a king. This gives them the ability to govern and administrate people. They handle foreign affairs, trade, they handle military matters, lawmaking, as judge and decision making. So standard governmental authoritative positions. That is one aspect of the king. The second aspect of the king is his divinity. This gives him the authority of those external, unaccountable factors and allows him to read them, understand them, and provide a model or a biopower that allows him to make these decisions, that allows him to influence culture. It's the living embodiment of the mythical external aspects of human life, the unknown and unaccountable, and gives them a person that sort of links that. So the king could be a god or a demigod, or he could have the backing of God. The third aspect of the king is his role as a priest or shaman. This puts him into the actual forecasting and ties him to the health of the land, to the fertility of the rains, to the protection of disease and famine, and allows him to read the omens so that he can make those decisions as an administrator to better increase the biopolitical objectives. Now, in some ancient cultures, all three of those roles were afforded to a single person who was the divine king. He was the champion or culture hero, the ruler, as well as the high priest or the shaman or the prophet. As time moved on, those roles were no longer to a single individual. A sort of archetypal model would be King Arthur, who had his champion, the culture hero Lancelot, and his high priest or his court wizard, Merlin. And still, as it progressed, you would have a court of governmental officials, an aristocracy or an oligarchy, and you would have a class of priests. These could be a church or a cult, some kind of group that could tell people about the external forecasts. And still, the champion and culture heroes would be your living legends, your great warriors, great thinkers, artists, poets, the people that we would call today celebrities. And so in the modern time, we have these three aspects of kingship divided across broad social fields. We have the political structure, the government. This is the rulership aspect of kings. This is divided across the entire political body. The celebrity status is your culture heroes, your divinity aspect of the king. And we still use the same kind of language, which is star power. And that's the equivalent idea of having the heavenly, celestial, or divine backing. What makes these people so great? Well, they have some kind of quality to them that is that tie to this external cosmic or cosmological power that they have been granted or they somehow were able to take for themselves because of their skill. There's something that sets them apart. And finally, the third aspect, which is the high priest, the shaman aspect, which is the media. More specifically, it's the news, but that's kind of becoming more so just social media in general. Again, the reason why this biopolitical structure has become so divided is because that has been the trend for a while, is to divvy up those roles so that the king is not a singular monarch, it is now the entire political system, the entire governmental system, in the same way that the culture heroes and the divinity is the entire celebrity culture, and the media is the entire high priest, the entire religious part of the kingship. The way that money and economics works is this is the main model of biopower. Biopower is a technology of power for managing humans in large groups. The distinctive quality of this political technology is that it allows for the control of entire populations. And this supports why celebrities are given star powers, because they have all this money and fame, and this gives them the authority. This allows them to be part of the lore and the cultural myths of your current time period. You get to live among the same time as these different sorts of celebrities. Just as in the past, these culture heroes and these divinized people are able to cure others. They're able to support you in your dreams, right? You ask for autographs, or you ask them to kiss your baby, or something like that. You want to have pictures taken with them, and it helps you use their star power to support you. Now, in truth, these three different aspects are very much integrated. It's more like a Venn diagram where each sphere is connected and touching each other's sphere. So they're not so defined in that sense. Because you have celebrities who are in political power, or you have celebrities in news or media, or they are in the news and media, and the same for the governmental roles. Where do we learn our government? We learn it from the priest class, which is the media. Now, to understand the media as the priest class or the shaman, we can simply look at the structure and organization of the news. The news tells us what's going on in the world or in your local community, and they usually tell you the bad things. The bad things are the omens. They're telling you such and such has happened. This is how the economy is doing. This is how foreign affairs is going, and this is criminal activity and other sorts of events and happenings, or just trends that are going on in the culture. And then in the very next scene, they tell you the weather, and the weather is linked to all of that. When you hear all this bad stuff in the news, and then they tell you, oh yeah, the storms are going to be bad, or there's going to be droughts, it's going to be really hot, or it's going to be flooding, you're going to associate the news with how the environment is doing, with the fertility of the land. And of course, this tracks back to the political office, the rulership, the governmental positions. When one political team is in the rulership position, suddenly all of those weather and news-related problems aren't as bad. And one example is certain political teams, when they are in power, suddenly global warming is not as big of an issue. And global warming is the same argument or the same kind of understanding of the rains and the health of the land tied to the biopolitical objectives either being completed or hampered. When the wrong political team is in power, suddenly global warming is accelerating, right? And that all has to do with man-made effects on rain. The same beliefs that humans have always had, with the biopolitical kingship being related to the rains, to the fertility of the lands. On another side of that, we also have conspiracies, which usually revolve around weather control systems or chemtrails or other things like that. It usually has to do or centers on the idea of rain, of man-made effects on rain, which is the fertility of the land. Even though we believe ourselves to be in this sort of modern era and that we are outside of all of these ideas which we call superstitious or we call religious or spiritual or primitive in different kinds of contexts, we are the same species and we have the same ideas for the same things. When the political leadership is supported by the people, suddenly the land is more fertile. People feel better about the future. They feel more secure. When a disease comes out, it is blamed on the political leadership or even sometimes the celebrities, the divine heroes. This is not to get political, but I'm only engaging in this so that we could understand how kingship works and why kingship is still relevant and how it's permeated in society a little differently than when we had monarchies, but it is still very relevant. The forecasting of weather and the reading of morals and news, and how all of those things are being affected by each other because of the rulership, and usually translated or transcoded from celebrities. Now, there's obviously a lot to explore. We could go specific case by case, or we could speak more broadly in kingship and the different aspects of kingship, both in the broader senses that we used in this video and more specifically into the different roles of kingship. But just understanding the biopolitical structure and form, which is inherent to how humans operate. We have to have a way of validating and understanding and communing with the unaccountable. And these roles are put into your special class of people who have obtained the biopower in order to do that. Your kings, your celebrities, and your news outlets, which are your priestly classes, and all the factors that go into that. Right? It could be scientists who are talking to you on the news. It could be celebrities talking to you on the news. It could be political entities talking to you through the news. The news is your high priest who's telling you the morals of the land, the way in which the land is being worked, and the health and fertility of the land as well. And the celebrities is your participation in the active myths and legends, the living legends, the culture heroes that you're alive during your time who add to the lore of everything. When your celebrities are good and you're able to participate with that, and they're able to provide content for you. In our case, it could be music, movies, art, things of that nature. You suddenly feel better about the land as well. So they are still interrelated and they're still integral to every aspect of rulership. They're just no longer contained in one court. It's no longer the kingly court, but you have a governmental body, a celebrity body, and a news media body, and that is how the biopolitics works. That's how the kingship operates. I'll leave it at that for this video. Can certainly talk about it a lot more, as there is a lot to talk about, but thanks for watching.